Hello everyone! Welcome to the 13th episode of the It's My Job podcast. This is Jose. I am a transition student from Colorado, and my teacher, Miss Christine Dully, is the podcast facilitator. The It's My Job podcast features students interviewing adults who are blind or visually impaired, investigating important questions like how they use technology and how they connect with other people. Each of our interviews were designed by students for students. Stay tuned after the podcast to learn how to get involved. And please share with your friends and teachers so they can listen too. Now for the interview. I am interviewing Lori. She is an incentive practitioner, past president of the American Council of the Blind of New York. She is currently contributing to the case in New York regarding to accessible pedestrian signs. Now, let's listen to my interview with Lori. What made you choose this career?
I remember attending a summer program for youth who were blind when I was about 14 or 15 years old. And we had to do research on different careers that we were interested in. And I had looked into psychology and learned more about that field and decided I wanted a more broad perspective that also may have community components to it. So that is what led me to seeking a degree in social work because of the diversity of a degree of that nature.
All right, awesome. What is your favorite part of your career?
I really enjoy helping people work through situations and kind of, being a sounding board and helping them to understand how their interaction with people impacts the way that people may interact with them, as well as how somebody may have to interface with various systems that may not be so friendly and kind to them, and can be very intimidating in helping them cope with interacting with various systems.
What kind of degrees are needed for this job?
Typically, an individual would hold a master's in social work. Some states do allow you to have a bachelor's in social work and do different levels of things, but it's dictated on the state level. So, for example, I moved from New York, where I was a licensed master social worker, to Virginia a year ago. And in order to be credentialed as a licensed social worker here in Virginia, I would have to take a test all over again, which basically at this point has led me to decide that I'm going to stick to the consulting work that I'm doing in a whole bunch of different areas. And I don't feel like tackling relicensing at this point. I've been out of school since 2001. And once you get out into the fields, what you do is very different than what you may be required to answer on a multiple choice test. So I think testing could be rather difficult.
Yeah, I completely understand for that.
I've also learned actually that I'm much better at tests where you write in answers, either long answers or short answers, than multiple choice.
How did you adjust to college?
College was a big adjustment. I think my best advice would be for people to understand what they may be receiving while they're in middle school or high school as accommodations that might be provided by their teacher, the visually impaired, or a Braille transcriber, whatever it may be, understanding what your needs are. Because when you get to college, you're on your own and you have to understand what you may be missing out on in the classroom in order to gain access to it. So, the more you understand about your needs will help you be able to advocate for yourself. And I think the other aspect of that I would say would be that with regarding to advocating for yourself, you need to understand that, yes, you have rights as a disabled student, but you also have responsibilities. For example, yes, a publisher has to provide you with an accessible version of a textbook, but you also, as the blind student, have to purchase that textbook. And recently I found myself in discussions with somebody that thought they shouldn't have to purchase a textbook. And I'm like, well, but you're taking the class, you need the book too. So, publishers make money off of no matter who it is. And their job is to sell their books, and their authors get revenue. And I've always been a big believer in supporting authors who have accessible material and publishers.
Right, which is really important for our community to know that too.
Yep. I think also time management is a huge issue. And I find myself right now with COVID kind of struggling with that, because I'm kind of like, oh, I could do this tomorrow. And I'm like, I don't know. I really should be doing it now.
I understand. I go through that myself too.
So it is important, I think, to really work on time management and realize that sometimes things take longer. The other day I'm back in college now, and I'm doing a second master's, and I was struggling with dealing with an online library, and I was having trouble searching the database, and it was just something really stupid. And I don't even know what I did wrong the first couple of times that I searched, but it took me about 45 minutes to figure out how to get to where I needed to be and get what I wanted out of this database. So don't always think that, you can just log on and get to where you need to be right away.
Right, databases are a little hard.
Yes.
Okay, so what technology do you use daily? Like, for example, like during your cooking, or like walk the dogs, or just, everyday technology?
Okay, so I've been a guide dog user. I actually received my first guide dog between my junior and senior year in high school. All of my dogs have been from Guiding Eyes for the Blind, which is in New York. I do keep my cane skills up, though. It's very important as a dog handler to always remember there may be a reason to leave your dog home, whether the dog not feel well, or where you're going, an environment might be not very conducive for a dog, such as a concert, or a sporting event where the floor might be sticky, or a movie theater. It's some of it's personal decisions, some of it's knowing your dog. I also use my microwave is labeled in Braille, as well as the ice maker on my refrigerator. And let's see, I use a talking cooking thermometer for testing meat temperature, things like that. And I use JAWS. I also use the Braille Note line of products. I actually have an ancient one that I've had since like 2005 that's never been serviced. And I have a Braille embosser, so I can have hard copy Braille if need be. I find that when I'm presenting in class, or sometimes when I'm working with a client, it's easier for me to look at something spatially on a piece of paper rather than horizontally on a Braille display. So I find that sometimes it's easier to print things out and look at them that way, and things can kind of flow a little better.
That's smoother, and I get it. So what specific technology or have for your job?
For my job, I primarily use JAWS and a Braille display, and then I also use an iPhone as well.
Yes. iPhone's a great phone.
Yeah.
What method do you use to keep track of deadlines?
I use calendaring on my phone. I'm a list maker, so I'll sit down and, like every couple of days say, okay, well, these are the things I need to do in the next 2 days, and I'll write myself a list. And then, that way I kind of can block out the time that I need to do different things. So I'm still a hard copy calendar person at times. So I find it easier, like when you're talking to somebody and you're saying, okay, 3 weeks from now, it's easier for me to look at that, in Braille in front of me than try to figure it out, other ways.
I get it, because if technology goes down, it could.
That's true. It can. And I have to admit, I'm not very proficient in the calendar features of Outlook. So, but I do use Google Calendars on my phone, and I have that connected with my Outlook. So that does help. I do use that as well, like for storing my Zoom links and things like that for different events.
That's a good strategy. What challenges did you face when you were president of the Council for the blind in New York, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenges for me with becoming a leader within the organization was learning about all the facets of being a blind person and understanding the laws and regulations, both on the state level and on the federal level, that impact people who are blind in their daily lives. So I really got to learn a lot about state level procedures, and I worked with school districts and helping parents with requirements for their children on their individualized education plans. And each district was a different experience. A lot of times that has to do with the economics of the school district and things like that. So that was a real eye opener to me. Some of the richer districts were more difficult to work with than the poorer districts. And so it really, I think, had also helped me to learn that my career change to become a vision rehabilitation therapist is a good move, because frequently I would find myself in conversations with people who were newly blind, or, parents working with their young children or even adolescents, and being curious about how to do things. And, I would say, like, I'm no professional, but this is the way, I did this, or what about trying this, but I had no professional backing to do anything like that. And now I'm realizing that a lot of times when I was offering things, they were actually pretty good suggestions. So I have to say it also opened my eyes to the diversity of the blind community, and has really helped me to understand how different cultures and ethnicities deal with blindness. So that was interesting as well.
So, for example, it was very painful for me to learn that very often in certain cultures, when women began losing their vision and were not able to perform tasks like cleaning and taking care of the house, things like that are in that specific culture considered a woman's job, that very often there would be separation between the couple. And that's very painful, because for, somebody who's newly blind, they're dealing with losing their vision, but they're also dealing with the cultural issues associated with what they grew up with in their culture. Part of it's learning to cope with your blindness, and part of it's also learning the differences between the culture that you came from, whether it be Central or South America. For example, coming here to the States where, there's more flexibility. So, reacculturing into a society is a big issue. I also have dealt with situations where people were losing vision, and because of religious beliefs, it was felt by the family that there was no need for the individual to learn to do anything, because the church was going to heal them. And that's fine, because that's your religious belief. But until that occurs, you need to function as an individual at some level. So that was, they were very interesting situations to deal with, because, I have to step outside of my own comfort zone and be very polite and understanding, and also educate myself about religious and cultural beliefs. So that was interesting.
Okay, great. That's awesome how challenges can be overcome. Simple and easy.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a younger audience if they want to find a job?
I think the biggest thing is think about, as a young person, there's a difference between a job and a career. And a job to me would be a summer job, or, something to do throughout the school year to keep you busy in addition to school, and, bring in some money. But think about things that you enjoy. Whereas a career is more of a long-term goal. And again, it should be something that you would enjoy. Nobody thoroughly loves their job. There's always parts of a job or a career that people are not gonna enjoy. But, if you're just pushed into doing a specific thing because that's what's being offered to you, you're not gonna really put your all behind it. I remember being in a program for blind youth, and they were like, okay, well, you're going to go and, work with this child that was younger than me, probably half of my age. And I didn't agree with what they had me doing with her. And I was like, but I couldn't, the teacher wouldn't let me ask any questions. It was just, my job was to sit there and hold this child's right hand and make her use her left hand to put pegs into a pegboard. And I'm like, this is stupid, because this kid has two hands. Yes, she has a dominant hand, and her one hand that I'm not holding is the hand that needs strengthening, but there's more to life. And as a totally blind child, she needs to be exploring with both hands. And I remember being so conflicted about it and thinking, like, this is awful. I felt terrible. And I said, this kid probably hates me. And then one day she bit me. So
No.
that was kind of ironic. And I remember they made me go to the nurse, and, she kind of left teeth marks. She didn't break the skin or anything. And the nurse was like, oh, you didn't have enough vision to see she was going to bite you? I was like, no, I'm totally blind. I'm like, and let me tell you, she was probably frustrated. I understand why she bit me,
Yeah.
So I really realized that was not my cup of tea, working in that type of environment. They actually then moved me to a classroom with younger children who were like 3 and 4 years old. And that was a lot of fun. That was, so I always say, like, you have to do something you're going to enjoy doing. And
Right, which makes sense, because like if you're not enjoying it, it'll
right. And sometimes, we go into things thinking like, this is what I want to do. And when I started out in the field of social work, I was like, I'm going to work in a mental health clinic. And, that's that. And I interned in a setting and learned very quickly that when you work in a mental health clinic, you're controlled by the client's insurance company. And I did not like that. I didn't like it one bit. I had insurance companies telling me that, somebody needed no more therapy. They're done for the year. And this was, the end of September. Well, what about the tough times of the holidays? How are they going to get through that? So I was able to then find a career working in a setting where I was not going to be interfacing with insurance companies. So that was nice.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to blind or visually impaired people across the country about their benefits?
I think, the biggest thing for people that are starting a career is to work with a benefits practitioner to help you understand how employment, whether that be, temporary employment, short term, like a work study, but you're getting paid for it, things like that, how those benefits will be impacted by work, so that you can understand how to negotiate the system. For example, for students that are 22 and under, there's an earned income student exemption, which basically means, like, if you're on supplemental security income, a certain amount of money monthly or annually is not even counted. So you would still be receiving your benefits. The nice thing about that is you're also building your work quarters for Social Security. So I think it's important for people to understand how employment will help them no matter what level they're at. As long as you're contributing financially, you're building towards your retirement. But you also need to understand how any public benefits that you're receiving, such as health insurance or cash benefits or supplemental nutrition assistance, how those are impacted by work, be able to navigate those systems. And that's the work of a benefits counselor. And the local vocational rehabilitation system can help you locate somebody that's certified in your area, and they can pay for those services.
Sounds like a good piece of advice.
Yep.
Okay. Lori, it's time for you to ask Jose some questions if you have some. Go ahead.
Okay. What grade are you in?
I am a transition program called Bridges to Life, and what I was focusing on is getting job training for me to get a career in the near future.
And what are your interests for working in what areas are you interested in working in for a job or a career?
Well, I am wanting to work in a radio station as a disc jockey.
Good.
I also want to work on mixing music for parties. Those are my interests.
Good. Those are good career goals. You've really given it some thought.
Hi, it's Jose again. Thanks for listening to the last episode of the It's My Job podcast. What did you think? Do you like to help people as well? Would it be fun to have a career as a social worker? Let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you. You can share your thoughts by phone or email. And if you have any questions for Lori, we would be happy to pass them along. And we might even share your questions and answers in a future episode of the It's My Job podcast. The phone number is 202-688-5044. That's 202-688-5044. Outside of the United States, you may need to dial +1 or 1 and your international access code. Be sure to check with your parents first. You can call us and leave us a voicemail, or you can send a text message. The email is askitismyjob@gmail.com. Again, that is askitismyjob@gmail.com. No spaces and no apostrophe. We want you to know that you can find us on Facebook. Just search for Ask It Is My Job. Each of our episodes is also on the Perkins Path for Technology blog. Check us out and leave us a comment at perkinslearning.org/technology. And finally, we have a YouTube channel called It Is My Job. If you missed episode number 12, head over to YouTube or Facebook to hear my interview with Annie from New York. You will learn a lot from her experience as an author, poet, and retired family therapist. This was our 13th episode, and we want to make many more, but we need your help. If you are a student who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be an interviewer on a future episode, please have your parent or teacher contact us via phone, email, or our Facebook page. And we will get you matched up with an interviewee. If you are an adult who is blind or visually impaired and would like to be interviewed, please send us a message via phone, email, or Facebook, and we will get back to you. Once again, our phone number for text messages and voicemails is 202-688-5044. Our email address is askitismyjob@gmail.com. That's askitismyjob@gmail.com. We have a lot to be thankful for in this episode. Thank you so much to Lori for sharing her time as our interviewee. This interview was facilitated by my teacher, Miss Christine Dully. Thank you, Miss Dully, for providing us students with meaningful opportunities for our future careers. Thanks to Perkins Path to Technology for the blog post. Our music is from purpleplanet.com. With so many of us working and studying from home, we hope this podcast is becoming a great opportunity to learn from each other and increase awareness about all the amazing jobs that are being done by people who are blind or visually impaired.